Hi, welcome back to Meg Reviews. I am joined today in person by my sister, Mush. And last time Mush was on, we talked about the 18 plus books in the Jedi Apprentice series. And today we're going to be talking about the 11 books in the Jedi Quest series. So, Michelle, how did you first become aware of the Jedi Quest books?
So I had read through all of the Jedi Apprentice books when I was younger. I read them through the library, and then I believe we just found the Jedi Quest books at the bookstore when they first released. So those were the books that I actually owned.
So the Jedi Quest books were books released between 2001 and 2004 that were about Anakin's adventures as a padawan. They depicted his relationship with Obi-Wan Kenobi and just like what he was like as he was developing into a young man. So I think they were meant to bridge the gap between episode 1 and episode 2. Wikipedia told me that there was originally a plan to make it like a multimedia release project like the Clone Wars or Shadows of the Empire, and that there were going to be toys, but that didn't happen. Instead, there were just one hardcover and 10 paperback books. So what were the high points for you in the Jedi Quest books? Like, what did you enjoy the most about them?
Well, it continues with my favorite character, Obi-Wan, and you get to see Obi-Wan's struggles and experiences while he's trying to be a master, because Jedi Apprentice is all about him as a padawan growing, but with the Jedi Quest books, you get to see him as an adult trying to, grow and his struggles as being a Jedi Master and try to teach Anakin his Padawan, and you see some characters from the Jedi Apprentice books who come back. So Siri is in the books, who had been in the Apprentice books. Some of the villains from the first books or people with connections come back, and other Jedis come back. And then you get to see more of Anakin, which was interesting.
Yeah. So you would definitely say that your favorite character was Obi-Wan, and Anakin, you were interested in his story, but less so than Obi-Wan's.
Yeah, like Obi-Wan's my favorite, and Padme's my favorite, and then Anakin, he's kind of like the tragic figure that you're really fascinated about, but it was difficult sometimes reading the Jedi Quest books because he would do something sometimes and you're like, oh no, Anakin, no, what are you doing? No! He was kind of the frustrating character because you'd read and he'd make these decisions and you're like, that's a bad choice. No, no, no.
And so Anakin's not a loner. He has friends, Padawan friends that he makes along the way. So what did you think of the Padawans that he interacts with?
I like the Padawan. So in the first mission that you get in the books, that's when he meets the Padawan True, and they become close friends throughout the series, and I liked True a lot. True was an interesting character, and he also becomes friends with the Padawan Dara, and she was interesting character. She wasn't quite as gifted in the Force always as Anakin was, so that was a bit of an interesting comparison. And then you also have the Padawan Ferus, who isn't really his friend, but is arguably the most interesting Padawan that he interacts with.
What is the relationship between Anakin and Ferus like?
Well, Ferus is the Padawan of Siri, Obi-Wan's close friend who he works with a lot. And Anakin and Ferus very quickly develop a rivalry that just gets more intense and competitive throughout the books, and Anakin just really does not like Ferus.
Would you say that Anakin doesn't like Ferus because Ferus is sort of like the good Jedi, the stereotypical Jedi, the Jedi who's following all the rules, and Anakin is a bit more of a wild card?
Yeah, Ferus is very much like he does what he's supposed to do when he's supposed to do it. He's gifted in the Force too. He's the good padawan, and he has a very close relationship with his master Siri, which Anakin doesn't always have. So I think there's a lot of things in Ferus that Anakin kind of envies, and he feels like if he's getting compared to him, that he isn't measuring up. I mean, they're not really comparing Anakin to Ferus, but I feel like in his head, Anakin, and then Ferus gets annoyed with Anakin because Anakin doesn't follow the rules, or he doesn't always do what they're supposed to do during missions, and he kind of goes off on his own sometimes, and Ferus gets frustrated because he's like, that's not what we're supposed to be doing, Anakin. But it's interesting because all of your depictions of Ferus, it's from Anakin's point of view, who's really biased.
Right.
So you don't necessarily have an unbiased perspective of what he's like, because you have a little bit from Obi-Wan's point of view, and Obi-Wan's point of view of Ferus, like, is not the same as Anakin's.
Yeah. So when we first meet Siri in the first book, she has been on a long-term undercover mission posing as like a pirate trying to catch slavers. And am I right in thinking that Obi-Wan doesn't know she's on an undercover mission? He just thinks that she left the Jedi Order because of a disagreement with her master?
Yeah, he thinks that she left and he was upset because he didn't feel like she talked to him or anything, and she just disappeared, and he's like, I thought we were good friends.
Aww.
So he was a little surprised when they run into her, and it's like, oh, you're still they knew you were doing this?
But in that first book, Anakin and Obi-Wan end up helping Siri in her mission. It's something like taking down slavers or something like that. So then that's the first hardcover book, which opens with, I think, Anakin getting the crystals to build his own lightsaber, and then this mission with his master. And then starting with the first paperback book is when we have his interactions with Ferus and the other Jedi Masters and Jedi Padawans. And so would you say that the 10 paperback books sort of cover one arc, because it's like the same villain throughout?
Yeah, there's the same villain, the same characters that we see in the first paperbacks. In the first paperback, they go on a mission where it's 4 Master and Padawan teams. So it's Anakin and Obi-Wan, and it's Siri and Ferus, and it's True and his master, who I'm blanking on his name.
It's like Rye Gall or something.
And then it's Dara and her master Sora. They go, and then those characters reappear. Like, they go on missions with True and his master. They go on missions with Siri and Ferus. They go on missions with Dara and Sora. Sora teaches Anakin a lot with using his lightsaber and with lightsaber fighting, because she's really good with that. And then the villains, it's kind of the same villains building on each other. Yeah,
and for what I believe, it's that the villain is there from the start, but they don't really find out the villain's identity until several books in, and then it's not until the end of the series that you find out really everything about the villain.
Yeah, and the villain you find out, is actually connected to the Jedi Apprentice books.
Yes.
So I don't think you have to read the Apprentice books first to read the Jedi Quest books, but it would be a little confusing when they get into the information about who the villain is, and also when another villain appears, if you didn't have the Jedi Apprentice books. Because I think there's a lot of background that's from the Apprentice books that the Jedi Quest books, I think, sometimes assumes that you already know that.
Yeah.
They don't explain, like, the backstory with characters as much, or the connections.
Yeah. So there's an evil scientist who first appeared in the Jedi Apprentice books, who's working for the big bad of the Jedi Quest books. And it turns out that the big bad of the Jedi Quest books is a man named Granta Omega, who is the son of the Dark Jedi Xanatos, that was Qui-Gon Jinn's former apprentice, who Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan faced off against in the Jedi Apprentice books. And he has some interesting characteristics, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's like the complete opposite of force sensitive. What's it, like force blank?
Yeah.
He could be completely undetected. He could basically like operate in this void that the Jedi aren't aware he's there, and other people too. Like they won't remember that they talked to him or that they saw him. He's basically like this master of disguise.
Which is the title of one of the books, isn't it?
It is.
But he's also very wealthy, which also aids him in his schemes.
It does.
And I believe the end of the Jedi Quest book sort of set up the conflict going into Attack of the Clones, because Granta Omega was trying to contact a Sith Lord, and I don't think that Sith Lord is ever identified by name, but I think the reader's meant to assume that it's Count Dooku, so this is leading into the Clone Wars, that like what he's doing is helping the Separatist front.
And it's also leading in, because throughout the books you see the struggle that Obi-Wan and Anakin has. Like throughout the books, their relationship becomes more and more strained, especially after in the book where Anakin and Ferus have to pose as students. I think that was like the School of Disguise.
The School of Fear.
The School of Fear, where they have to pose as students, and Ferus goes missing, and Anakin doesn't let Obi-Wan and Siri know that Ferus is missing, because he's just going to complete the mission on his own. And that really makes the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin rocky. Because Obi-Wan gets very upset that he would not let them know that his fellow Padawan is missing and in danger, and that he would just continue on the mission on his own. And you also see near the end of the books that Anakin starts getting closer to another character that factors into Attack of the Clones. And that's Chancellor Palpatine.
Yes. So the Jedi Quest books then show the beginning of how Palpatine is forming this relationship with Anakin in the hopes of manipulating him, posing as this kind mentor figure when he has very bad schemes in mind for him.
Yeah, and when Anakin's relationship with who should be his mentor is getting more and more tense as Anakin and Obi-Wan kind of start realizing they really operate from different ways. Obi-Wan's like what the Jedi kind of modeled themselves to be in a way, and Anakin is very much like he doesn't always do what the Jedi are supposed to do. Kind of some of the tension that Obi-Wan had with Qui-Gon Jinn, but amplified, because now Obi-Wan's the master and he's trying to get his Padawan to be how the Jedi are supposed to be and act like they're supposed to act, and Anakin just doesn't do that.
There are two events in the books which shake first Anakin's confidence in himself and then Ferris's confidence in himself. The first is that they go on a mission, and very shockingly, that mission leads to the death of Jedi Master Yaddle.
That was so
Did you
sad.
expect that at all?
No, it came out of nowhere. It was very shocking and upsetting to my young self.
And then in the final book, on another mission, leads to the death this time of one of the Jedi Padawans, which is the Padawan Dara.
Yeah.
And what does that do to Ferris's confidence and belief in himself as a Jedi?
It really affects Ferris's confidence and beliefs. He was even being selected for this, like, knight in acceleration program that they were going to, like, let him become a Jedi Knight faster because they thought that he was, you know, really talented and suited for it. And that contributed to Anakin's tension with him because Anakin wasn't selected for that program. But then Ferris blames himself for Dara's death, and then he's not sure that he even really wants to be a Jedi or that he should be a Jedi Knight because his fellow Padawan and friend died, and he leaves the order.
Oh, wow. That's a way to end it, that someone who had so much promise is so conflicted with himself that he just straight up leaves.
And it really upset Siri.
I could understand why. So, I believe there are sequels to these books, that there are books set after the fall of the Republic, after Order 66 happens, called, I think, The Last of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And they're about Obi-Wan and then Ferris's adventures during the beginning of the Empire.
Yeah, I haven't read all of them. I have them, I just haven't read all of them, but it's Obi-Wan meets up with Ferris, and then they are rescuing Jedis and helping people. And that's like, Ferris is, he's not a Jedi anymore, but the Jedi have fallen, so it doesn't really matter.
No. So I guess in a way, if you include Jedi Apprentice, Jedi Quest, and then the Last of the Jedi books, you sort of see Obi-Wan at like all the stages of his Jedi career, as a padawan, as a master, and then as a Jedi in hiding. So it sort of shows you like a really in-depth look at him, even if in the second and then in the third series he's not playing as huge of a part as he did in the Jedi Apprentice books.
No, he's still very involved in the Jedi Quest books, and I haven't read the other series, but from what I have seen with it, he is also heavily involved.
So for people who somehow back in the early 2000s missed out on these books, would you recommend them even though they are children's books?
They are, because they're very interesting. There's mystery, there's suspense, you get to see more details about the characters, and really there's a lot of growth and character development that happens. Jude Watson did a really good job in writing the books, and I think they are rather interesting even if they are children's books.
So thanks so much to Michelle for joining me in person this time. She usually lives very far away from me, so this was a very rare treat. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed our discussion.